It is 2 a.m. in the heart of the financial district. The city outside is silent, but inside this office, a war has already begun. There are no sirens. There are no shattered windows. There is only the soft hum of a cooling fan and the faint glow of a single laptop left on a mahogany desk. On this screen, an innocent-looking spreadsheet is open, a routine vendor invoice. But beneath the surface, millions of dollars are already moving, silently, invisibly. No alarm has been triggered. No firewall has barked a warning. Just a few lines of invisible code woven into the fabric of the corporate network. What if the biggest fraud risk in your company isn't an external hacker or a disgruntled insider? What if that risk is sitting right now in the very device you trust most? This is the anatomy of a silent execution. One infected laptop, one company destroyed. This is corporate secrets. To understand the destruction, we must first understand the weapon. Malware in corporate finance isn't just a virus, it is a surgical instrument. Unlike the loud, disruptive ransomware of the past that locks screens and demands Bitcoin, modern financial malware is designed to be a ghost. It is built for persistence. Its goal is to sit quietly, sometimes for months, observing every keystroke, every login, and every approval workflow. It begins with a dropper, a small, harmless-looking piece of code that bypasses traditional signature-based antivirus. Once inside, it unfolds itself, reaching into the deep architecture of the operating system. It maps the network, identifies the most valuable targets, and prepares for the moment of impact. In the world of high finance, information is currency, but control is power. And once the malware has control, the balance of your company is no longer determined by your CFO. It is determined by an anonymous actor halfway across the globe. Meet Rahul. He is a senior analyst in the accounts payable department, diligent and trusted. It's a busy Tuesday morning. His inbox is flooded with urgent requests. Among them is an email that looks identical to hundreds he's received before. A revised invoice from a long-standing logistics partner. The logo is perfect. The sender's address is off by just one letter, a detail invisible to the naked eye during a morning rush. Rahul hesitates for a fraction of a second, his cursor hovering over the attachment. Then, he clicks. In that single moment, the perimeter is breached. There is no pop-up, no warning. Behind the scenes, a hidden script executes in the background, reaching out to a command and control server. The malware has arrived. It didn't need to break down the door. Rahul unknowingly handed it the keys to the kingdom. This is the human factor, the most exploited vulnerability in corporate governance. Once the initial infection is successful, the malware faces its first challenge: limited access. Rahul's user account doesn't have the authority to change bank details or authorize multi-million-dollar transfers. But the malware is patient. It begins a process known as privilege escalation. It scans the laptop for unpatched vulnerabilities in the kernel. It harvests local credentials stored in the browser or memory. Like a master locksmith, it slowly constructs a master key. It seeks out domain admin credentials, waiting for a system administrator to log into the machine for a routine update. Within hours, the malware is no longer just a guest on Rahul's laptop. It has gained the highest level of authority. It can now move laterally across the entire corporate network, bypassing internal firewalls and jumping from the finance laptop to the core ERP servers. The shadow admin is now in charge, and the real administrators are none the wiser. With admin rights secured, the surveillance phase begins. The malware deploys a sophisticated keylogger and screen scraping module. Every time Rahul logs into the corporate banking portal, every time he types a password for the treasury management system, the malware is watching. It doesn't just steal the password, it captures the context. It records the mouse movements, the secondary authentication steps, and the security questions. It even waits for the moment a one-time password is entered. To the banking server, the login looks perfectly legitimate. It is coming from a recognized device with the correct IP address, using the correct credentials. This is the man-in-the-browser attack. By the time the session is finished, the attackers have a complete blueprint of the company's financial rituals. They know exactly how money moves, who approves it, and when the oversight is at its weakest. The trap is set. The true genius of financial malware lies in its ability to manipulate reality. It targets the ERP system, the brain of the company's operations. The attackers don't just steal a lump sum, they modify the vendor master data. They find a legitimate vendor, perhaps a large utility company or a regular raw material supplier. and they change the destination bank account number just minutes before a major payment run. This is a subtle, surgical strike. To the finance manager reviewing the payment batch, everything looks normal. The vendor name is correct, the amount is correct, and the internal approval workflow shows as verified. But the digital path has been redirected. The malware creates an illusion of compliance while it reroutes the company's lifeblood to a series of shell company accounts. This isn't just theft, it's the systematic corruption of the company's internal controls, turning the system against its own creators. Thousands of miles away, in a dark room lit only by the cold glow of multiple monitors, the puppet master watches. The infected laptop is now a node in a global botnet. Through a hidden back channel, the hacker sends commands to the malware. They can see the company's real-time balance. They can see the upcoming payroll dates. They can see the private communications of the CFO. This is the command and control center. From here, the destruction is orchestrated with the precision of a military operation. The attackers aren't just looking for a quick score. They are looking to maximize the payload. They wait for a long weekend or a holiday period when the audit team is thinned out. They use the infected laptop as a staging ground to launch further attacks within the industry. The single device has become a gateway for a global criminal enterprise, and the countdown to the final blow has begun. It is the end of the month. Payroll day. Thousands of employees are expecting their salaries. The finance team is under immense pressure to release the batch. This is the moment the attackers have been waiting for. They have injected a hidden script into the payroll processing server. As the file is being transmitted to the bank, the script executes a batch file edit. It adds a few $100s to hundreds of different employee records, but redirects those bonuses to a single offshore account. Or it creates ghost employees, non-existent workers who are suddenly on the payroll for one day. The total discrepancy is large enough to be a catastrophe, but small enough to be missed in a hurried final review. Rahul clicks Authorize. The tension in the room is palpable, but it's the wrong kind of tension. He thinks he's finished a hard day's work. In reality, he has just signed the company's death warrant. How does this happen? Most companies have millions invested in cybersecurity. They have firewalls, encryption, and multi-factor authentication. But malware doesn't just attack software. It attacks the gaps between systems and the people who run them. It exploits monitoring delays, the hours or days between a breach and its detection. It exploits patch gaps, those small windows of time when a server is left unupdated. But most importantly, it exploits the human trust factor. We trust the emails from our colleagues. We trust the reports our ERP systems generate. We trust that if something was wrong, an alarm would go off. But when the malware has captured the very accounts that monitor the system, the alarm is silenced before it can even ring. Corporate risk isn't just about external threats. It's about the erosion of internal truth. When you can no longer trust the data on your screen, your company is already lost. But the attackers aren't just interested in the cash. They want the secrets. While the finance team is distracted by the payroll run, the malware is busy exfiltrating the company's most sensitive data. Strategic plans, intellectual property, unannounced mergers, and private communications of the board of directors. Millions of files are compressed and encrypted, then whisked away to a dark cloud server in a jurisdiction beyond the reach of the law. This happens in seconds. By the time the IT department notices an unusual spike in outbound traffic, the data is already being sold on the dark web. This is the double extortion. Even if the company stops the fraudulent transfers, their reputation, their competitive edge, and their future are now in the hands of the highest bidder. The laptop didn't just empty the bank account, it stripped the company of its soul. 48 hours later, the first red flags appear. A vendor calls asking why their payment is late. An employee notices a discrepancy in their tax filing. The internal audit team is called in. They dive into the logs, but they find nothing. The malware has done its job well. It has deleted the evidence of its own execution. It has modified the audit logs to show that every transaction was authorized by a legitimate user from a legitimate terminal. The investigators are left staring at a board of red strings that leads back to their own most trusted employees. Suspicion begins to rot the company from within. Rahul is questioned. Priya is questioned. The culture of trust that took decades to build evaporates in a single afternoon. The tragedy of financial malware isn't just the financial loss, it's the psychological devastation of a team that can no longer trust the person sitting at the next desk. Then comes the explosion. The bank's fraud department finally freezes the accounts, but it's too late. The loss explosion is total. Millions are gone, laundered through a complex web of cryptocurrency and offshore shell companies. The company's credit rating is slashed. Shareholders panic. The board of directors calls an emergency session. The CEO is forced to explain how a multi-billion-dollar enterprise was brought to its knees by a single email attachment. The music of the corporate world, the steady beat of commerce, drops into a low, mournful tone. This is the moment of realization. The cost of the breach is 10 times higher than the stolen funds when you calculate the legal fees, the forensic audits, and the permanent loss of market value. All of this because of one laptop, one single infected device that was left unattended for just one night. Think back to Rahul. He wasn't a criminal. He wasn't even careless. He was a dedicated professional who fell victim to a highly sophisticated psychological trap. The attackers knew his name, his role, and his vendors. They used his own dedication against him, creating a sense of urgency that bypassed his natural caution. This is the fraud triangle in action: opportunity, pressure, and rationalization. But in the digital age, the opportunity is provided by the malware. Rahul's story is a warning to every finance professional. The enemy isn't a shadowy figure in a hoodie. The enemy is the misplaced trust we put in our digital tools. We assume they are working for us, but without constant vigilance, they can easily be turned into weapons of corporate suicide. For Rahul, the office he once loved has become a crime scene. And for his company, the future is now a question of survival. But this destruction is not inevitable. Prevention is a masterclass in vigilance. It starts with email verification. Never trust, always verify. It requires robust endpoint protection that goes beyond simple antivirus to look for behavioral anomalies. It demands network segmentation, ensuring that a breach in accounts payable doesn't mean a breach in the entire ERP. And most importantly, it requires dual approval, the human four eyes principle that cannot be bypassed by a single infected device. Malware doesn't need violence to destroy a company. It doesn't need to break your firewalls or hack your servers. It only needs access. It needs one person to click, one manager to rush, one control to be ignored. In the high-stakes world of corporate finance, the best defense isn't just a firewall, it's a culture of healthy skepticism, because in the end, the code is only as powerful as the person who lets it in. If this video opened your eyes to the invisible threats hiding in your office, then take action. Like this video to help spread awareness. Comment your thoughts on corporate security below. Share this with your finance team. It might just save your company. And subscribe to Corporate Secrets for more deep dives into the world of audit, fraud, and financial intelligence. Stay vigilant, stay secure. We'll see you in the next investigation.